Islam Makhachev, Justin Gaethje. Which one will get the next lightweight title shot? Might be somebody else too, but that's who we're talking about right now. You got Makhachev at 9-0 in his last 9 fights, with a win over one ranked opponent, I believe. And you've got Gaethje, who's had a mixed bag of it, but has pretty much fought killers and former champion Khabib Nurmagomedov in that time, and just had a fantastic performance over Michael Chandler. You had Khabib weigh in on this and say, oh, it should be Makhachev, but that's his teammate slash coach. It's, a little biased for my taste. So, Drake, let's break this down. Assuming that you were going to pick one of those two guys, we're not talking about anybody else in the division right now. Makhachev or Gaethje, who deserves the title shot more?
Deserves is the key word here, Pat, and it's very interesting kind of to see the mix. I feel like it's pretty split between how people feel about who should get the title shot in this case. But honestly, for me, I'm a guy who always values winning streaks a lot. And for Islam, a guy who, like you said, is on, it's 9. Yeah, you said 9, which looks right. Got the record up here.
Hey, got it right.
There we go. Nailed it. And he has finished I think it's half. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 of them. So, I mean, not too bad there, which is good. You like to see that. 9 in a row. There was a point, Pat, if you remember, I want to say this was definitely pre-Reebok. So kind of Fox era, a little bit around there. There was a point where 8 was a guaranteed title shot. If you get to 8, you can't go beyond that. You pretty much have to get a title shot. But I remember the days when George Soteropoulos, big throwback there to the Australian guy who was living
in big throwback
in
Good
my
Lord.
neck of the woods. Soder, as we'd call him. He had that 7 fight winning streak, if you can believe that in hindsight, and then got stopped by, I think it was Dennis Seaver, of all people, was the guy to knock him off. So clearly didn't deserve a title shot. But we were talking at that time about, oh boy, here we go. Soteropoulos wins this. He's fighting Frankie, I think, at the time. So
he was Frankie, yeah.
Crazy to look back at that. But that used to be a thing. And then Tony Ferguson kind of happened, and he didn't get his. And we've seen, other people get there. Even Michel Prazeres, he I think had 8. Had to go beyond that, and then he got stopped by Austrian Wonder Boy, who's not even in the UFC anymore. That was a pretty crazy upset, especially now.
It was an insane upset. The Tractor.
El Tractor, yeah.
El Tractor.
But, the shortest welterweight of all time. So there was that point where 8 was a guarantee, and I always liked that. So once they started letting people or not giving title shots after that, and especially with the Tony case, it was kind of like, yeesh, what are we doing here? And now that's kind of not even a thing anymore. And for Islam, who has 9, and we're going against Gaethje here, who just lost prior to his last win, and that was his only fight in the year. He had gone a year since he returned.
Right.
I value the Makhachev streak a bit more in terms of who should get the title shot. I mean, it would be fresh, assuming Poirier comes out of it, but that's not a safe bet. I would love to see Gaethje versus anybody in general. It doesn't even have to be Oliveira Poirier. Let's get that out of the way. And business-wise, Pat, I'm sure you'll get into that. Gaethje, probably better choice than Makhachev, even though there is an argument, I think, to be made for that Russian audience, the Khabib rub, all this. Islam is becoming quite the star. If you just look at pretty much, his videos and interviews from most of the outlets, his numbers are pretty darn good, as they just are with a lot of rising Russian stars. But that's a pretty big argument, I think, in that regard of things. But in terms of the merit for each, I mean, Gaethje got waxed by Khabib for the most part. And yes, it's Khabib, but he's 1-1 in his last 2 fights against a guy here who 9-fight winning streak. Yes, just 1 ranked win, like you said, against a short notice hooker, but man, it's not easy to go on those kind of long winning streaks. I don't care who you are necessarily, but he's finishing the guys too. It's not like he's decisioning. That would maybe be a different case. I mean, you look at Prezeres, that was kind of the case with him. I know he finished some of those guys, but I'm sure the streak here for Makhachev a little bit better, and all the other people I made comparisons to. But I value winning streaks, man. I think it's a really important thing. We don't see it too much. It's very hard to go on long winning streaks, as we've seen time and time again. So I think people should be rewarded for that. And Makhachev dominating and getting that win. I mean, the Hooker win was probably his most impressive win. So that should even give him a better chance there. So I just think it's not much of a question here for me in terms of the merit of who deserves it. But of course, it's all about the dollar sign, Pat. So take it away with that side.
Yeah, no, and you could see that my hair just perked up a little bit when you did that. Just, you know, it's been a rough work week, so I'm just, everything is just all off the cuff. When it comes to who's better business-wise, let's tackle that, get that out the way. Honestly, it's Makhachev, just straight up.
Okay.
The numbers are there, as you mentioned. He's got way more of a kind of social media groundswell following. He targets an audience and fills a void that Khabib left, where Khabib really built that whole region up, right? Just with Russia, with all of the region in that area, even just, Middle East, Khabib really built a big following there and then left and retired. And no one has claimed that spot. Chimaev was starting to claim that spot, then got sidelined with COVID and all those cancellations. Makhachev is now filling that role easily. Us putting Makhachev's name in the title of this video, I guarantee will help do it better than other videos, because that's just what a lot of people are searching for. Yeah, fourth wall break there, a little behind the curtain. Yeah, a little behind the curtain there. Yeah, I'm letting it all out today. This hair, man. But so as much as I love Gaethje, and he's exciting, and he's the type of person that if you're not a UFC fan and you watch his fights, you may become a UFC fan, right? But business-wise, still, the money is all on Makhachev. Even when Gaethje headlined against Barboza on ESPN, the numbers and ratings for that were not as high as several other ESPN cards. He's not historically a draw. So money-wise, you got to go Makhachev. Deserve, though, this is where you and I differ.
Ooh.
Because if you look at Makhachev's win streak, right? I just want to go through some of these names. Chris Wade, no longer in the UFC.
Featherweight championship contender in the PFL, baby.
In the PFL, yeah. No longer in the UFC. Nick Lentz, no longer in the UFC. Gleason Tebow, no longer in the UFC. Cajun Johnson, no longer in the UFC for kind of BS reasons, but no longer in the UFC nonetheless. Then you got Saryukian. That's a big one. You've got Davi Hamosh, Drew Dober, Thiago Moises, and then Dan Hooker, as you said, being his biggest. Those last five, especially, I think are big wins, and I would consider that more of a real 5-fight win streak. Because, yes, you can consider the other guys. That's true. But in terms of relevancy in today's world, it's really those five. Then you've got Gaethje, again, going up against killers and making it, other than Khabib, making it pretty competitive in all of those fights. And we're talking either, championship contenders or high-ranked guys that he then stopped the contendership, right? Like Tony Ferguson, Dustin Poirier, Chandler, Khabib. I mean, it's hard not to look at Gaethje's resume and say, man, he faced an insane list of killers, of former champs, number 1 through number 5 contenders in all-out entertaining wars. For me, I am more than happy to have Gaethje get the title shot and truly think he deserves it, because he is hung right in there with all those guys, right? He's been hanging with those guys. Whereas even Dan Hooker, I mean, is what, now on a 2-fight skid, 3-fight skid?
Just 2. No, because he beat Pac Rust.
Oh, he
So
did
it's
beat
actually
right.
right between.
So
the
it's
Chandler.
alternating. But in terms of, again, ranked opponents, Hooker against ranked opponents lately has not been great. He lost to Poirier, he lost to Chandler, he's lost to Makhachev now. So he's, I don't want to say he's on his way down necessarily, but he's not a surging contender that's right in the thick for a title shot. So for me, I think Gaethje deserves it more for going through those wars. Really, again, only his last loss as of recent date was Khabib, which everybody has lost to, and has beaten multiple number one contenders otherwise. Just, beat Chandler, who had Chandler beat. I don't know that Chandler would have gotten a title shot necessarily, but he just came off a title shot. Had Tony Ferguson, obviously, which was a massive win for him. I mean, I don't know. That's where I'm at with. I think Gaethje deserves it more. I do a little bit. Just a strength of schedule, man. Look at college football rankings. I love,
Oh, now we're getting rankings in the mix.
We're getting
here.
rankings, yeah. But
Well, then that begs the question, Pat, of do we think the UFC will give it to him? Because, I mean, if you look at the spots that both of their last two fights were, I mean, just a week apart, right?
Right.
I mean, about the same on the card. I don't remember if Makhachev didn't open the main card. That was Chimaev that did that of UFC 267. But still, good spots, main card spots, obviously. And then, like you said, Chandler, better win than Hooker, and the MMA math will support that quite easily. In terms of what was a more impressive victory, I think clearly Makhachev, just performance-wise. But what was a more entertaining fight? Well, clearly we know the answer to that one. There's the history with Poirier. I think this probably comes down to who wins the title fight, Pat.
yeah,
In the end, that's what will decide this. I feel bad for poor Beneil Dariush. He'll probably face whoever doesn't get the title shot after this. But
you know what? I don't feel bad for Beneil Dariush at all.
oh, okay.
I don't. That's a totally different video. But I mean, again, if you want to talk strength of schedule and Beneil Dariush's ranking and his strength of schedule, just saying. That's a whole other conversation. So I don't feel bad for him whatsoever.
We're going there.
We're going there.
Yeah. Well,
Scott Holtzman was 3 fights ago.
hot sauce.
Hot sauce. Scott Holtzman was 3 fights ago. Yeah, I don't even have to go down that path. How he's number 3, rankings panel, get your shit together, because that's just mind blowing. So,
Boy. Well, Pat, with all this, lightweight craziness in mind as we think about it, I think this is still true, and it should be still true. The stat I saw recently was the last lightweight champion to win the title by defeating the champion was actually Conor. Right?
Yep.
And I want to mention Conor here simply for the fact that if Dustin Poirier becomes champion and Conor can come back in a reasonable amount of time, we can guarantee that quadrilogy is going to happen. So then these guys will end up fighting each other and things will sort itself out that way. But we still aren't out of the mess in the woods, if you will, with the lightweight division, as long as I guess Poirier's involved, and because Conor's always going to be around there. But depending on what happens with the title fight, I think we'll have a clearer picture of what's going to happen, right?
yeah, no, I mean, I think that's especially because of the way the UFC works and the way that their business, first type of mentality is. Poirier gets past Oliveira. I think you probably end up with a Gaethje rematch, depending on what the buys are for Poirier versus Oliveira, because that's guaranteed to be a war. That'll be a fun fight. Their first fight was great. Loved their first fight. Yeah, I mean, so there you go. Whereas Makhachev comes in, it could be more of, you never know how Poirier is going to react to that. It could be a lot like Poirier versus Khabib, and then you get kind of stuck in that mix. If Oliveira gets it done, I could maybe see more of enticement for Makhachev versus Oliveira, because you got the submission versus the wrestling. That would be a really good matchup, would make a lot of sense. It depends. The UFC will certainly have, ever since Habib has left, right now they have a rare opportunity where no one looks invincible, right? Makhachev probably looks the most invincible, but people forget before his 9-fight win streak, he got knocked out by Andrino Martins. And so, it's very possible that he loses, but he definitely looks the most bulletproof right now. But everyone else in the mix doesn't. And they can purposefully decide who they want to be in positions and kind of tee people up for certain things, which I'm sure they're doing. I'm sure they're looking at different matchups, looking at different numbers and saying, okay, like who would we prefer to go up against Charles Oliveira? If they want Gaethje to be champion, then yeah, if Oliveira beats Poirier, Gaethje is probably a good matchup. I would say that could maybe take out Oliveira just because we've seen Oliveira get hurt before and Gaethje's gonna, come with the war. Makes a lot of sense. If they would prefer targeting that market that Makhachev kind of has a firm grasp on right now, they're gonna push Makhachev regardless of who wins the fight. It's gonna come down to business, and the UFC is the one who wins in all of this because you don't have. Yeah, and you don't have a champion sitting up top who is not a draw and constantly winning. In other divisions, they've had that happen before, and it's kind of like, well, they just have to deal with it. Now they've got options. So, yeah, I think it'll really depend on numbers. I will be very curious to see if we get the buy rate for Oliveira versus Poirier. Because if Poirier has that draw power after beating Conor twice, then it's going to be... I think Makhachev will not be facing him anytime soon.
Ooh.
That would be my prediction.
Well, I guess to close things out, potentially with some more predictions, Pat, since you brought it up, what do you expect the numbers to be for 269?
Oh, that's tough. I mean, this is the first time we'll get to see what Poirier's drawing power is, right?
By himself, again,
yeah, like he'll be the A side. That's a big deal. It's tough because you look at 268, which numbers were not released. 68, and I've gotten some flack on my Fight Business podcast show from a couple people, but I think that's telling that it didn't do very well. I don't think it did badly. I don't think it's
not as well as they hoped.
Yes, or at least not a big blowout, right? Wasn't million plus, wasn't probably 800, 900,000 range, 700 maybe, but I doubt it because Disney and Disney would have touted it on their earnings call since Disney Plus was not doing well and their stock sank like 12% or whatever it was. And somebody would have leaked it to John Orland over at Sports Business Journal. The only time that numbers don't get to Sports Business Journal is generally if they're on the lower side. And Sports Business Journal is the only source I trust right now for accurate or semi-accurate pay-per-view buys. So I think that says a lot that we haven't heard a peep about what those numbers are, which is surprising because Usman, right, you would think would have gotten some of that rub for his Masvidal fights. But who knows? I could be wrong in that regard. I'm going to go 400K. I think that's reasonable for 269 because I think Poirier will have power, but I don't think it will be crazy. Actually, I'm going to say 500K because it will be his first fight since, 500K. 500K is what I'm saying.
All right. I'm feeling a little bit more optimistic. I'm thinking 600 around there.
Ooh, okay. I'd be happy if it was. That'd be great. Poirier deserves it. He's a great dude, right? But you never know. MMA fans are...
What Oliveira Chandler was 300, right?
I believe... Well, I don't know. I have to go back and look. I want to say that was reported at around 300. Yeah. And I think that did come from reliable sources. So, but that's not a great night out, right? And Poirier versus Holloway, I mean, that was the first card with the ESPN Plus switch, but that didn't do well at all. But that's also to be expected when you just like 2 weeks before pay-per-view say, oh, by the way, you can't get pay-per-views the way you're supposed to. So,
and pre-Conor wins.
Yes, that too. So
we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
We will see. It's going to be interesting. And, I mean, I know, just to close this out, I know you said 9-fight win streak back in the day. That didn't happen. Although one Max Holloway did need, I think.
Also a good mention.
Yeah, I think 10. I think it was, he fought for the interim title.
I think Tony was
10th.
first to reach 10, I think. I feel like Tony was. We'd have to look
Holloway
this up.
I was looking it up, so hold on.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
They might have been both of them. I feel I could have swore Tony had 10 as well.
Yeah, no, he fought because 9 was his 9th win was Ricardo Lamas, and then he fought Pettis for the interim title. Okay. So he would have gotten a title shot. So yeah, that's true. So I don't know. Let us know in the chat who you think deserves the title shot. Should it be one Justin Gaethje, the highlight reel? Should it be Islam Makhachev, the surging 9-0 in his last 9 fights? Just powerhouse of wrestling. Who deserves the title shot? Should they fight each other so that you can do Conor versus Dustin 3 or 4 for the title fight? Right? Like, that sounds like a plan, huh? Huh, guys?
Let's not count out Charlie Olives now, Pat. He's hanging on to that belt all day.
That's a very good point. I don't dare count out Charlie Olives. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, bell notification button, and yeah, let us know in the comments how you feel about this one. It's a big one for who will get the next title shot. And yeah, in the meantime, can't wait to see Charlie Olives versus Poirier. That is going to be a banger of a fight for as long as it lasts. So,
fire! Olive oil.
Olive oil, baby.